Jackie Waines had previously been a married woman. The couple had 3 daughters together, but unfortunately at some point Jackie's husband had left her, and the 3 children were subsequently taken into the care system. The full details of this are unknown, and Jackie now lived with a friend, Avril Miles, on Hepburn Road in the St Paul's area of Bristol. Jackie was also known by another name, an alias Linda Guest. As well as having 2 names, she also had 2 homes. The second home, the one without Avril, was a council maisonette at Bevan Court near Grosvenor Road, the place where she would take punters back on a night time. Jackie's friend was in hospital at the time, so Jackie had agreed to go and visit her. Now, Jackie worked selling her body on the streets on a night and would often take her clients back to the old maisonette that she had. It was now April the 21st, 1985. That evening, before Jackie disappeared, she visited her friend and flatmate Avril in the hospital before she went out to work. It was a busy evening and many of the people that knew Jackie saw her on the streets of Bristol that night. At 10:45 p.m, Jackie walked up Brigstock Road with another female colleague as they chatted. Jackie approached a red Ford Cortina that was parked on the corner of Hepburn Road. She approached the car and got straight inside. She didn't seem to chat to the driver before getting in, so the friend thought that she must already know who it was. Maybe he had already been and picked her up before. Now, he was described as white, having blonde curly hair. It may have been highlighted or natural, she wasn't sure. And as the car drove off with Jackie inside, and the car was seen turning right at the top of Brigstock Road onto Ashley Road. But Jackie was back again on Ashley Road by 11:10 p.m, where she was seen getting into a small Ford Escort type van. Now, Jackie was seen again at approximately 11:20 p.m, walking back up Ashley Road. But this was the last time she was seen alive again by anyone who knew her. At midnight, some young men who were driving home after a boys' night out on the town had decided to pull into a track off Perimpet Lane. They were listening to music, chatting, laughing, relaxing and smoking. By now the windows are pretty steamed up, and their only concern really was what was going on in their little environment, so they were not interested or paying any attention to anyone else who was pulling into the track or what was going on outside. At approximately 12:10 a.m, a couple, Mr. and Mrs. Shilshan, drove down Perimpet Lane. When they passed the end of the track where the boys were parked, they saw a large white van which was damaged on the side and was visible from the road where they were. They also saw a man with slim build. He was wearing blue jeans and a multicoloured bomber jacket. He looked like he was dumping rubbish by the side van. At 12:20 a.m, Craig Howell and his girlfriend Julie passed the same lane. They also saw the Ford Cortina and something that looked like a body just sprawled out on the dirt. They quickly turned their car around at the next available junction and drove back up the lane to see what it was. The Cortina was now gone. Craig got out of the vehicle and found Jackie's body lying in the dirt, covered in the red stuff. She had been stabbed several times. Craig and Julie went to a nearby farm where the owner answered the door and went with them to the crime scene. After all, in those days there were no mobile phones. Only an hour and a half passed between the last sighting of Jackie alive and her body being found. Police did not know where she had been murdered. Was it somewhere else? And her body had been dumped on this country lane. Police summarised that the motive was not robbery, as she had money on her when she was found. They thought that maybe she could have got into an argument with a client, or someone went out intending to take the life of an SEX worker. But Jackie was not an argumentative person, so police thought that it was the latter that was more plausible. Police appealed for the man in the red Cortina and the man in the escort van to come forward. They stated that they did not care what they were doing there, they just wanted to find out who had done this to Jackie. The boys were smoking in them, told police that they did not notice a van or a cortina. Police especially appealed to the man in the white van as they thought it was the most important sighting as they appeared to be dumping something. The couple who saw the van said that the man was dumping a sizable white bundle at the time, so police believed that this was the time when Jackie's body was dumped. They also appealed to anyone who may have done repair work on a similar van, hoping that the garage may come forward with information. Police immediately launched a massive investigation, but leads were thin on the ground. Many men who frequented sex workers in the area did not want to cooperate with police for fear of being exposed, especially if they were married. However, witnesses did report seeing a plain white van with no windows and damaged paint on the side near the area where her body was found. So was it the van or the cortina? And this same vehicle was spotted more than an hour later at the intersection of Iron Acton Road near Latteridge Road. When Jackie was found, she was partly dressed and one of her shoes was missing. Was it an accident that her shoe was missing, or did the person that did this to her take it as a trophy? The 35-year-old's clothing, a blue and white striped mini dress, had been found in disarray. She'd also been the victim of an SA attack. Coincidentally, Jackie's friend, neighbour and fellow sex worker Margaret Crowley had also been murdered 4 years before in 1981. Her killer, Brian Peel, was eventually caught and imprisoned. Police focused their search on the possibility that Linda was picked up by a client and wanted to discover who the mystery curb crawler was. But at the time, the patch Linda worked was the city's curb crawling hotspot, and witnesses were unsurprisingly not eager to come forward. Police initially appealed to the men who visited these sex workers in the area and said that any information would be dealt with in confidence and they would not be prosecuted. But DS Malcolm Hughes, who led the investigation, did have a warning. We know many of the men who visit St. Paul's for the purposes of sex, and if they don't approach us, we're going to have to come to them, he warned. But I would like to emphasize that we are not looking to prosecute anyone for this. Our priority is to catch the person that took her life. Police released pictures of the only clues they had. One of the clues was a white 2 or 3 ton van with plain sides, no windows, and some damaged paintwork on its offside, similar to one seen by witnesses at the spot where she was found. The van was said to have been spotted around Frampton Cotterell at 12:10 a.m. that Sunday morning, just minutes before the body was discovered. A similar vehicle was seen at the Iron Acton and Latteridge Road junction at 1:40. Witnesses said the driver was a slim man, aged between 20 and 40, with short, dark hair and wearing a bomber jacket. It was also seen placing a large white bundle on the ground near to the side of the van. Neighbours said Linda had lived at Bevan Court for around 7 years and shared the home with her 3 daughters, but the girls had been taken into care. Linda moved in with a friend at Hepburn Road, but kept hold of her maisonette, still collecting her post from there each morning. Those who knew Linda described her as a quiet woman who kept herself to herself and would frequently stay indoors for long periods of time alone. She also had been friends with another lady, the lady we mentioned before, Margaret Crowley, who had also worked the sex trade. Sadly, Margaret had also been murdered, tangled with a ribbon from a teddy bear at her flat in Albany Road in Montpellier in 1981. And despite police being able to find out who was responsible for taking Margaret's life, unemployed carpenter Brian Peel, jailed for 7 years, Jackie seemed to not get the same justice. Police were operating from one of their very own computerized investigation rooms, but despite the sophisticated technology that they felt they had at the time, they were still baffled by this crime, and by July 1985, detectives no nearer to solving this crime turned to the BBC One's Crime Watch to reenact the crime. It showed Jackie getting into the red Cortina with a man with blonde curly hair, and later talking to a driver of an escort-type van. 120 phone calls came in as a result of the show, but led nowhere, and by early autumn, officers had followed up on 3,400 lines of inquiry and taken 1,850 statements from the public. Extensive coverage had been given by the press, radio, and TV, but still, this crime remained unsolved. Avon and Somerset police said there is no evidence linking Jackie to Christopher Halliwell, who was a man that went out searching out sex workers and did come up in conversation regarding whether he could be involved. But Avon and Somerset police believed that there was no link. As of this year, Jackie's case still remains unsolved, and there is very little information as to whether or not they recovered any DNA from the scene at the time. Very little in the way of information is available to the public regarding this crime, possibly because police do not want to release things that only the perpetrator would know, or whether it's because this crime happened in the 80s when the internet was a thing of the future. Unfortunately for her 3 daughters, they have grown up without a mother. They still, as we do, have no idea who did this to her, why anyone would want to hurt her. It must have been a scary time for Jackie, especially after her best friend's life had been taken in the same way. But whatever the case, and however little information there is on offer, this case still remains unsolved, and it seems that we have covered many cases on this channel of women who have been taken in a similar way, possibly even by the same person. Thank you for listening, guys. Take care, and I'll be back with you again soon. Stay safe.